And welcome back. We're live, as always. It's Sunday night. It's 10 p.m. in the UK, 5 on the eastern side of the USA. It's the football show that you love to associate all your Disney characters with. And we'll start with an apology. We missed you last week. For one reason or another, things happen. So it's good to be back. And actually, with me tonight is Stephen, who thankfully nobody had to listen to last week.
Yes.
Having had Liverpool lose twice in a row on the week before. So
Yeah.
count your blessings we weren't here last week.
Definitely.
And also, I'll have it noted before we even start, that Liverpool don't play until tomorrow night. So he's got that false optimism once again that things will just be fine come this time tomorrow night. So, yeah. Hi, Stephen. You all right?
I'm good, John. You? Yeah, I'm really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
It's good. And it's, do you know, I would also say as well, we're missing Charlie tonight.
Yeah.
Who can't make it, but he does send his apologies to everybody. So a big hi to Charlie. We'll see you soon, mate. And
see you soon, Charlie.
We'll take it from there. So yeah, but just interesting load of football. We missed on quite a bit sort of last weekend. I was reeling last weekend. I was waiting for you. I was rubbing my hands. I was there, you know.
Yeah, but for some reason it was for reasons that could not be controlled by anyone else. We just couldn't go live last weekend. I apologise for that. John apologises for that, and Charlie, I'm sure, apologises for it as well. Yeah. But just some things are more important than going on live, I think. Yeah. What we've got tonight, though, John, we've got a bit of a guest this week, haven't we?
We certainly have, and it's nice because actually this is possibly for anybody watching. Our guest has actually been in the chat for every show that we've done so far.
Definitely, yeah.
And it's been absolutely brilliant because actually it shows anybody watching, if you keep participating in the show, we'll ask you to come and join us. Come and share your passion for your football. Definitely. You know, because I think that's more than anything. So do you want to introduce?
Well, we'll get Nick in. And what I'm worried about is we've got Nick who's in here, and like you say, John, he's been involved in the comments every week since the start of the show. So I'm a little bit worried that we're going to have no comments this week, but at least he'll be on the show and he'll be able to chat with us. Welcome in, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Here he is. Doesn't look like a happy bunny.
We've chosen the wrong week for you to be on, haven't we?
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
We could have gone back last week when we was 4-0. No, was it 4-1 or 4-0 winners?
Yeah.
That's my fault. That's my fault.
You know, I was feeling the same thing last Sunday, you know, Nick, and I've got to say, I did have a little. You weren't actually waiting for the show to start on YouTube because I had a little dip onto there, and it was great because Everton didn't play until Monday.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, great. I was going to give Charlie and Stephen what for because Liverpool were just absolutely bombing it out. And then a week later, Everton got beaten off Chelsea on Monday night. And then sort of they never bothered turning up yesterday. So I'm in that position where my football club's just as bad as yours in some ways. And
we'll definitely get into that tonight. So.
Yeah, and I made the mistake of getting Son and Kane into my fantasy football team this week as well.
No,
it's just like the biggest mistake of my life. And Stephen's going to rub it even more next week because I've sold Mo Salah for the first time in like a whole season. So you just know what's going to happen tomorrow, don't you? Just tell them
that trick. Trick.
I can see it now. It's just the script's being written.
That's it. Well, he was on form in the midweek of the Champions League, wasn't he, Almo?
Yeah.
You know, I don't think Mane was quite in form, but he tried to headbutt the ball into the goal and ended up putting it next to his toe.
Yeah.
There you go, John. Charlie's in the chat there. He's saying, John, we have our defence sorted out now in midfield. So the rest of the this season. So we're going to win the rest of the season. That's what we're saying. We're not playing until tomorrow, so we don't take the stick until next week.
I think Charlie's actually enjoying being in the chat, I think.
He is. He's saying it there, isn't he?
That's just like that's as positive as he's been for weeks. It really is. So yeah.
Definitely. Right, let's get into it. Let's get into it.
I think a good place to start is actually with the Spurs.
Yeah, let's get Nick off. Let's get.
I know we've
get it off your chest, mate. Come on,
yeah, we've been through this before, and today I felt was just such a typical Spurs performance in possibly what's been a frustrating season as a fan, because it's just been about peaks and troughs, though, haven't it? You see that little ray of light. You see Gareth Bale starting to play football. You see the fact that he's actually been chosen to start. You see the fact that Dele Alli seems to be back in the fold. And then the team that turned up today, it was as if, well, I don't know, I'll let you tell the story from the perspective.
So I think, well, Mourinho went defensive straight away. He was looking for counter-attacking football, which I think in this day and age, as if I was a manager, I don't think works as well as it used to. Purely because you've all the areas of the pitches are covered, unless you're going to see teams that are constantly attacking 24/7 and their defence is pretty much halfway line. There's absolutely no point for counter-attacking football.
Yeah.
Another thing is our defenders are definitely not up to scratch. Alderweireld looks jaded. He looks really tired. Dyer's too inconsistent. Sanchez is Sanchez. He's absolute. Well, I won't say it on the stream, but he's absolutely useless. Doherty, not convinced at all. No. Absolutely, I can't understand why we bought him personally, because you've got a player as much as he was inconsistent. Aurier likes to have a go. He will play football and he will get up that wing. Doherty always looks unsure about what he should be doing.
He looks the type of player that has been bought, having nobody actually having seen where he fits the Spurs system before. And I give him his due, because for the past couple of seasons at Wolves, he's been a real mainstay of their system. And since he left there, he's been missed massively. But when you look,
go on, carry on.
He's the proverbial sort of square peg in a round hole since he's turned up at Spurs, and looks. He looks as if he's out his depth, and I don't like saying that about players, but he does look short.
Yeah, I've said this about players over many seasons when I've had talks with friends and stuff. You'll see someone that will shine in a team, an average team, and then the big teams will come in and buy them, and then they turn into average players.
Yeah.
And it shows them up. I mean, for instance, it took a while, but I think in the end he became good. When Carrick played for Tottenham, he looked amazing because he was in an average team. He went to United. How many seasons did it take him to actually become the Carrick of Tottenham?
Yeah, I think it was all
2-3 seasons.
About 3 or 4 seasons, but Carrick.
Yeah, and then by the end of his 4 or 5 seasons with United, he was the Carrick that we knew from West Ham and Tottenham. But you could say that about a lot of players, and I think that's what you're seeing with Doherty at the moment. Is he looks really good in an average side. He comes to a bigger side, and he's, like you said, he's well out of his depth. He doesn't look comfortable in the position he's playing. Yeah. And I mean, I think I heard some of the commentators saying that he looks better in a back three. I don't think he does. I think he looks. I don't think he knows his position yet. I mean, he's still quite young, isn't he? So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced with that back four. I'm not sure Jose is convinced of his back line. I think he sticks with Dyer purely because he can communicate with Dyer because he used to play in Portugal. I think that's the only reason. And then he can shout directions at Dyer and it gets relayed to the back line.
Can I ask you a question about that then? Because actually, I think with Eric Dyer, I think I've had a pop at him a couple of times because he comes across as this guy that sort of should be sort of international sort of starter, this, that, and the other beside Maguire. And he looks the weak link in that Spurs back line. Yeah. He looks short of pace. He's got less pace than Harry Maguire, which is saying something.
I think his position is suited as in front of the back four, tidying everything up for midfield.
Yeah, and it's that back to Mourinho then? Is he not in the position that they should be? Which then leads me back to the Dele Alli issue, because I think the way Dele Alli's been treated is nothing short of scandalous. But Mourinho treated Luke Shaw the same way at Man United, and we're now 3-4 weeks down the line, and I think Luke Shaw's been sort of man of the match for United for about the past 3-4 games.
And the same with Juan Mata when he was at Chelsea, done the same thing.
Yeah. I think he just doesn't like creative players, does he? I just don't know what it is with him. He just doesn't allow them to create as much as they like to. The players you just mentioned there, Luke Shaw, Carrick, they end up being, Luke Shaw's doing well on United now.
Yeah.
Doherty, he's not someone who's going to go forward, but Aurier is. I don't know what it could be Mourinho, it might not be Mourinho, but I'm just seeing a pattern through what's coming through to Tottenham now.
Yeah.
No, he's not letting the players off the leash.
Yeah.
Go and play the game. And that's Mourinho. He will sit back. He wants to sit back and then attack.
I think what I would do as a manager now, how many games have we got left? Give or take.
We're about 10 games out now.
What? 10 games left.
Yeah, Spurs have got 10 games.
So you've got a final coming up against Man City, which is pretty much that's done. I think Man City's going to win that quite comfortably. Possibly walking into a quarter-final of a European or UEFA League. For the last 10 games, if it was me, I'd be concentrating on the Europa League. And for the last 10 games, I'd be like, there are no tactics. Go out and play football. That is the be-all and end-all. Because there's no point in you playing football if you're not enjoying it. I mean, they're getting paid vast amount of money a week to kick a ball about, have a little bit of training.
Yeah.
So if you're not enjoying it, what's the point? I mean, I was very fickle around the fact that you'll get a lot of players where you see that they don't want to be there. They're not bothered. They're getting paid all this money a week. And then I ended up watching the Tottenham documentary that's on Amazon.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of players there that are really, they want to play for the team. And they're arguing with one another and they've got that fire in their belly. But when you watch them in a game, you think, is it all put on for the camera? But I think there are a lot of players there that want to perform and they want to play football. And there are a lot of players there where I think either one, you're not good enough, or two, you're only in it for the money. You're not there to play football. You've reached that level of football where you're like, I could probably, if I was to even demote myself into a championship team, I'd walk into it. They're in that sort of mentality. But going back on today's game, yeah, they really looked like they couldn't be bothered. I think Mourinho was playing far too defensive, waiting for the counter-attack. It didn't happen because when you're constantly under the cosh, like Arsenal were doing in the first 20, 25, 30 minutes, you've got no outlet because you're constantly, all you're doing is clearing balls.
Yeah. I would also add as well in Nick, and I think credit where it's due. Eric Lamella's goal, if anyone has not seen it, it has got to be one of the greatest goals I think I've ever seen. Not just for this month, but ever. It was just a Rabona hit with the precision and the power they actually did it. And then the stupid person, I'm trying not to swear, he goes against himself. He ridiculously got himself sent off. He actually could have picked up a second booking about 3 times before the ref actually turned around and gave him a second yellow. And he couldn't have any argument about it. He'd been given chance after chance. And I thought, talk about taking the shine off what should be one of your career highlights.
Yeah.
It was a marvellous goal. It really was. And actually it should have been a goal to win a game. It really should have been. And nobody in that Tottenham side actually had the belief to go and win it. I think it was a stat with about 10 minutes left, and Harry Kane had not touched the ball in the Arsenal penalty area for the whole game. Now, I'm not one for sort of stats of that level, but I'm thinking surely at some point someone's going to hoof it and at least bring Kane into the game. He was getting more and more frustrated. Yeah. And then he had a goal chalked off that was offside. That was definitely offside. He knew it when he scored. And then he had the free kick that basically ended the game, which he ballooned over the bar. And that was Harry Kane's game for the whole day. That's all he did.
Yeah, it's like I said. You can see pretty much from when they're walking down the tunnel onto the pitch whether they're up for it or not.
Yeah,
and I think they didn't do anything until Lamela come on, and Lamela was the only one that wanted to fight. Yeah. That's what it looked like. He was up for it. This is a derby. We're going to have a ruck.
Yeah,
and no one else was like. And that's another thing. It's very rare that you get that in a derby now. You don't get those meaty derbies where you think, something bad's gonna kick off, or you're guaranteed a red card for something. And I mean, personally, I think that red card was a little bit soft.
Yeah,
but it was it was a bookable offence. He's already had one, so he's got to go. So
To be honest, I think he should have been booked before he was originally booked, and then he should have been booked about twice before he was booked for the second time. He clocked it up in the referee's book, and I just thought, in some ways you just sort of reel yourself in and realise, look, let someone else do all that dirty stuff. Concentrate on your own game and give your team a chance by staying with 11 players.
But usually on a week-on-week basis, I'm like, I think Lamela's run his course. He needs to go now. But he's the only one showing any fight for this team. Yeah. When he comes on, he's up for it. And everyone else is like, I get paid me money. I don't really care. But as much as it pains me to say Arsenal were worthy winners, they come out from minute 1 till, at least 10 minutes to the end, the 80th minute, and give us a good hiding. I mean, even that penalty, again, Sanchez. I think how many penalties have Tottenham given away this season? I think it's like one every other game. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
It was a daft penalty as well.
The ball had gone. He didn't need to tackle him.
Yeah, it was.
So that's my rant.
I feel your pain, mate. And I've got to say that's why we're here. That's why we're here on a Sunday night. I consider it a counselling session. For,
it's normally for Charlie.
I know. It is, and you know something. I had that down as possibly being the game of the weekend where we might actually see some really decent football breakout, and it never. Yeah. Arsenal actually, I give them the due because they dropped Aubameyang for disciplinary reasons. Which I think was because he turned up late, which as a club captain, I thought, but you stick to your policy as it applies to everyone. It doesn't matter who you are. And he benched him. He didn't bring him on at all. And I think Arteta, once again, he seems to have this little sort of Indian sign over some of the bigger teams where in the past, sort of Arsenal have struggled. And I think all they need is just to grab that consistency. And I think Arsenal could actually turn into a half-decent side. He's probably 2 or 3 decent players away from it, but I think Arteta's put a bit of a stop into Arsenal.
Nick doesn't like that.
That sits there with me. No, I don't think that.
Yeah. I don't know. That's just my avoiding talking about Everton sort of routine.
Oh no, we're getting on to Everton. You're not getting away with it, John. You're not getting away with it. We are getting on to Everton, Lisa. Definitely not getting away with that. I was thinking of this game, and I didn't get to watch it. I've read the report on it, on the Tottenham game, and the fact that he said, it was only on for 2.5 minutes on the highlights. And I was looking at trying to liken it to Disney rides is what we're doing. It's doing games, and I've got that down as the small world because it's full of hype, and then when you get there, it's a bad letdown. Controversial, I know, but
rides. Let's have a think. Come back to me. I'll think of a really good one. I've also got to stop my cat from knocking my camera over.
Yeah. While you're doing that, I'll have a comparison with the Speedway. It's that stench of sort of the stench of the fuel as it's being burnt from the car in front. It's just that stench of rotten football that Mourinho turns out week after week. You know,
I would probably say it's the people mover. Everyone gets hyped with it, and it never works.
Oh, I love it.
I think there's some good ones there, isn't there? Yeah, good. So that's Tottenham done.
Thank you.
I'll tell you what. Let's
Should we get on to Everton? Should we do Everton, John?
No, before we do, can I just? I know Charlie's still in the chat, and I know that Charlie's had a real soft spot for Sheffield United. And
I want to do Leicester Sheffield United first.
I can do Sheffield United. You know, what do you do when you've only got 14 points? You've not won for goodness knows how long. You're not scoring. You're not doing anything. And then you fall out with your manager. And the manager that they've got is a Sheffield United fan. He's well liked by the fans. He knows his football. He was the one who got promoted in the Premier League in the first place. They had a fantastic season last year. And then suddenly they've only got, 9 games left now, and you let him go. You know, he falls out. I think he's fallen out with the owner because he was looking for promises for what possibly could come in next season. And I'm just thinking, you know, we've seen it before, haven't we? We've seen it with like the Sheffield Wednesdays of the world, where things haven't gone well. You change your manager, you get relegated, you then panic, sack your manager October, November time because it's not working. You then find yourself in a relegation battle. And I hope it's not the case because Sheffield United were exceptional last season. But you can just see where this could possibly end up being not very pretty. And I think the comment I heard on the game earlier was the fact that, you know, most Blades fans really just want the end of the season to happen right now, and let's just take the relegation. Let's move on. And Leicester, I'll give them their credit. They really did a proper job today. And it could have been that position where, you know, you get that bounce after you sack your manager, and I think Leicester wouldn't have been looking forward to it, but actually they came back and you know, I think it was
5-0.
5-0, and that wasn't flat. It wasn't even flattering, you know. And I must admit, I'm not a great fan of Iheanacho. I know many Leicester fans are not fans of Iheanacho, but scored that trick. Vardy had 2 assists, and actually Vardy could have had a hat-trick of his own as well. And you know, Leicester are another of those frustrating sides, but they keep digging out 3 points when it matters, and they're still in touch.
Yeah,
you know, the third place, 56 points. You know, a point between them and Man United, and fair play to Leicester. And I think
they'll comfortably finish in the top 4 this year, John.
It's looking more and more likely, and I think that's fair play to them because there's loads of other teams that keep pushing at that door and falling short. And I would include probably all 3 of our football teams in that.
Yeah, I'd just like to touch back on Sheffield, though, John. With them getting rid of the manager in the way they have done. I liken Sheffield season to the similar to Liverpool season in terms of they've had a lot of injuries. A lot of their key players have gone. And if you want to look at how far teams fallen, Liverpool were first last season. We won the league. We currently sit 8th in the league table because of the injuries we've had. Other things as well. Just I'll go to what Nick was saying about Tottenham with Liverpool is they just don't seem to want to play. Yeah. You know what I mean? They don't have that fight, but there's a lot of injuries. But Sheffield United have had that, and they've fallen further down, and it was always going to happen for them. They've got rid of a manager that got, like you said, John, that got them up into the Premier League to begin with. So why get rid of him? You should just. There's 10 games left of the season. Why now? You've left it too late. It's a knee-jerk reaction. It's like And it goes back to my rant from about 4 or 5 weeks ago when people were talking about Klopp in that way, you know. And I just thought, no, it's just the wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
You need consistency. You need the consistency in the management. You need consistency in the players that you're there. And I just think Sheffield have made an absolute show of themselves. And personally, after what they've done to the manager, I'm kind of happy that they got an annihilation today.
Yeah.
I'm happy that they got that because it's what they deserve for treating the manager the way they've done.
I think, Stephen, and I think this is maybe something for people who are watching who sort of sort of Premier League fans over a number of years, like Norwich City were in a very similar boat last year. They didn't play particularly well. They beat Man City. That was probably the highlight of the season, but it didn't accrue a lot of points. And actually, they were relegated. They were second best by a long way. However, they didn't sack the manager. They sold well. They got rid of a couple of players and brought a lot of money in to actually keep the finances of the club stable after being relegated. And they've gone again this season, and they're currently 10 points clear at the top of the championship. That I think they're pretty much guaranteed to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And they look the part again. You know, who are you trying to kid? You know,
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with being one of these teams that goes between the two leagues.
Yeah. Charlie saying that Sheffield's going after Coach Lasso. I'm not sure who Coach Lasso is.
Yeah.
Is that from the States?
He's a parody coach. It's done by an actor. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's on Amazon. It's quite
fun. It is.
Yeah.
It's Ted Lasso.
Well, that's a bit like when Uli tried to sign that fella from the Sky One show, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's going to be something else. I think, Charlie, you're onto something. I think we should push everyone across to go and watch that on Amazon. Yeah.
Please. That just went right over my head. That, but when you told me, brilliant, excellent.
He's an American football coach who then gets involved with a soccer team, and you know, it's like, in fact, it wouldn't surprise me if Sheffield United signed him up, because it's either that or Sheffield Wednesday will have him or something. You know, it's going to be owners that just see his CV and think, "Hey, we'll have this guy. He looks good." So, good call.
A couple of seasons ago, they filmed a little bit with Tottenham, and he was talking with all the Tottenham players there. That was quite fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's it. There you go, Stephen. You got something to check out this week. That's it.
I'm going to check it out. I'm going to check it out.
Go watch that.
I'm sorry, I've been stuck in the past this last couple of weeks. Since Disney, going a little bit off topic here, but since Disney Plus brought out The Star, I've been watching the television program Lost. I never watched it the first time round, and last 2 weeks, I think I'm on halfway through season 3. That's how I've just been addicted to it. But yeah, I'll definitely go and check that out. Charlie's talking about Brighton here. Adam Lallana right now. He's a workhorse, the playmaker. I've always liked Adam Lallana. I thought he was always a great player.
Yeah.
You know, he just gets dogged with injuries, doesn't he?
Again, what I was talking about earlier, when he played for, what was it? It wasn't Southampton, was it?
It was, yes.
Yeah, Southampton, yeah.
Really good in Southampton. Went to Liverpool. How many seasons did it take him? Two seasons.
I think it took him the whole time he was at Liverpool. I don't think he was ever considered. He had
good games and bad games, didn't he? He was never brilliant for us.
Yeah.
He had good games and bad games.
Same with all the strikers you used to buy. You had Andy Carroll, balling at him on the back and go in for Newcastle.
Yeah.
You joined Liverpool, nothing. And then
this is something I was going to touch on, Nick, when you were talking about Doherty earlier on, is Liverpool have had the first year of players who look really good in that team and come to you and they just don't look up for it. And the players you mentioned there come before we won the league. And with Liverpool, there was always that big pressure. You got to win the league. You got to win the league. You got to win the league. And you take that step up into a big club. Is it because they just don't have the talent to match that level, or is it the fact that the pressure gets them I think it's a mixture of the two, or it could be just the pressure with some of them. They just don't know how to act when they're not the big fish. So when they're the big fish in the little pond, like, they're great and they're all got the confidence going, they can do whatever they want. But as soon as they go into a team where they got people who have the similar skill and a similar level to them, then they just seem to wane off a little bit.
Do you know, that's a really fantastic point.
Yeah.
And I'm going to flip it on its back. What happens when a player is that bigger fish and he's not playing, and you suddenly find the whole club don't play? And I'm talking primarily of Aston Villa, who, when Grealish hasn't played the past 2-3 games, they look so much. They look through the past 3 games he's not played. They haven't won. They've drawn 2. They look the Villa of last season all of a sudden, and it's just upset them completely. And I think we've spoken about them, thinking they're the team that are really going to push in for those certainly top 5 position, because they had games in hand, and they've taken that key player as, for not his own fault he's injured, but suddenly they've lost the whole plot. They look relegation fodder all of a sudden, and just for one player not being there, and that's the difference in it. Lallana himself, when he was at Southampton, was superb.
Yeah,
goes to Liverpool, and I'm thinking again of if Grealish goes to one of the bigger teams, which has always been said that somebody's going to pay a lot of money for him. What's going to happen next? Is he going to kick on, or is he going to go and be in that position like Lallana was when he went to Liverpool? Like Doherty's suffering from at Spurs, and like probably every striker that Everton has signed all the way through my life. I've got Tony Cottee in my mind at the moment. Tony Cottee scored goals absolutely everywhere. When he was at West Ham, banging them in with Frank McKennie. Turns up at Everton, couldn't hit a barn door. And suddenly you get players, and usually Everton have bought them throughout the whole period of my lifetime. And thankfully, I'm at a position we're not buying players like that. It's quite reassuring.
I think every club's got the story of the players that they buy who thought they'd come in and do a good job and he'd be great. Look at Zaha when he went to United. He does everything at Crystal Palace, but he went to United and he was an absolute failure. Liverpool have got a long arm.
Yeah,
Ali's even putting Benteke in there, and I think Benteke falls into that bracket as well.
Yeah.
Going to your point, John, about when a player who's that big and he doesn't play, the rest of the team just falls down. It's because when you have a player that's special, like Grealish is obviously special to Aston Villa. I liken it to Steven Gerrard when Steven Gerrard was a special player at Liverpool. When we had them awful teams, really awful teams at Liverpool. But for some reason, we'd have really good games going and win cups because we had a special player like Gerrard in there. You take that special player out, it's like taking the mojo out the rest of the team. So the rest of the team up the game because they're with this great player. And all of a sudden, that great player isn't there. They're like, oh, God, who do we look to now? They're looking around the pitch. Who do we look to now? Because they're all looking to that one player all the time. So once that one player goes, who did you look to? They can't look at each other because you don't have the confidence to look at each other for it. And that's the problem you have when you have such a great player who's so much better than everyone else around the team, is they end up getting that focus. And that must be a right nightmare to manage, a real nightmare to manage.
Well, can I bring it back to a team that have appeared sort of in our sort of Mickey sort of bracket more often than anyone else of this season? And just have a little look at Man City, because City turned up yesterday. They'd got rid of, they shuffled the pack as Pep is entitled to do, much to my annoyance. Again, with my fantasy football team, but he changed his midfield completely. He dropped Gundogan, and Gundogan, who's been on an absolute a series of really good games, but he actually dropped De Bruyne, or he rotated them. I think that's probably the better description, isn't it? He rotated the squad, and actually, I'd been looking at City, and I was thinking I thought Fulham would have had a chance yesterday if De Bruyne had played. Simply because, and this goes back to the point about Grealish, City seem to be in that position when De Bruyne plays. Everyone's looking for De Bruyne to pass the ball to, and let him sort out what City are doing. Which before he came back from his injury, I actually felt City had a much better balance to them. But they found a way around it yesterday because they brought back, Aguero into the front line. They brought Fernandinho into the midfield with Rodri, and Torres was there. And suddenly you just bring your reserve team out, you chuck them on the pitch, and it all gels and it looks all fantastic again. That's I really that's probably why we can't see beyond City. They seem to have this knack of taking the big names and putting them on the bench or giving them a rest and letting someone else come in, letting someone else excel, and they do it without the whole juggernaut of the team being upset. And it must be an almighty time to be a City fan, simply because you don't know what team's going to turn up each week, and yet they still come out with the same result.
Yeah,
there was no Foden yesterday as well, and I really like him. I think he's a cracking player, but they just put the team out that they thought would get a job done, and they got the job done.
That's it. And going back to another point that we talked about before, about when we talked about Sheffield United, getting rid of the manager, and Liverpool, the way they're going this season as well, having a really horrible league season and stuff. Well, City didn't have a great league season last season. They were out the title race by Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's after a couple of years of absolute dominance from them.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't have the knee-jerk and go, we're getting rid of Pep because the things aren't going right now. They just stuck by the manager, and I'm not going to take the excuse, well, it's Pep Guardiola. Well, it's any manager. Any manager goes through that, and you've got to get through it. And any manager will get through it. You just got to give them the faith, and they're reaping benefits again this season. Because for me, John, I said a few weeks ago, they've won the league. They're 11 points clear.
Yeah.
Now on the table, and for me, I can't see past City winning the league this year.
But the thing as well, though, Stephen, they're good value for it, and they're actually they're exciting to watch. Even when they're trying to dig out a result, they're good to watch. They're good on the eye. And I can't think of any other team now in this league that have actually still got that consistency. Chelsea, a couple of weeks ago, we were thinking suddenly they look as if they quite fancy playing football again. And then it's gone to the fact that I still think we're back into that sort of anti-football sort of debate, which I keep coming back to. Leeds caught them out again yesterday, which I thought was good. I thought they were lucky to sneak a result against Liverpool, and they were far better than Everton last Monday night. I put my hands up to that. Everton never turned up, and Chelsea just took what was there. But I think City are just they really do. They are absolutely head and shoulders.
They are this year, yeah. They're definitely head and shoulders above everyone else.
Yeah,
no one can touch them this year. No one can touch them. And what's depressing about that, John, is because 2 seasons ago we seen 2 great sides fight for the title right to the end. It was like 97, 98 points between the two of them got. Then last season, Liverpool were head and shoulders above it, and it was just like a one-horse race. And it's turned into a one-horse race again this year with Man City. I've said before on this show, I think it's purely because we just had a quick turnaround of the season. It's just gone. We just ended it, and it started too soon, and too many performances. Like Nick just said about Tottenham earlier on, the performances just isn't good enough. Liverpool's performances aren't good enough. Other teams are saying they're not good enough. They're inconsistent. I just think when I look at the players in any team, they just look tired.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. But then, what makes City and admittedly Manchester United sort of stand above and Leicester? Well, let's put Leicester in there. City, United, Leicester. I'm still my judgments out on Chelsea. West Ham look better this season because they're better organised. But then we get that this spell of teams from 6 down. We've got Everton, Spurs, Liverpool, which therefore is all our 3 teams. But then Villa and Arsenal right the way down to 10th. And you could actually, between those 5 teams, there's nothing to choose because it depends which team decides to put the shirt on and go and put a shift in.
Yeah.
And you don't know. You don't know until the first 10 minutes. My eldest son has got a theory, and he's made his mind up in the first 10 minutes. You can tell whether Everton will win or lose the game. And he's basically got the last 6 games absolutely spot on. And it's either they play with a really high intensity, and I think Spurs are the same. You knew today Spurs were not going to win that game because they were.
You could tell in the tunnel.
Yeah,
you could tell in the tunnel.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? It's a really, really strange thing as well, Nick. And I know Stephen's mentioned before about there being no fans, but you can't. We're 28 games into this season. They've had the ones from last season. You must be used to it by now. You've got to up your game somehow. You've got to look for that 10% adrenaline that you previously got from your home crowd and try and seek it through either shouting at each other or sort of just the will to put the shirt on.
And I think it goes back to what I said earlier. I mean, you've got the likes of you've got Man City, Man United, Leicester as the top 3.
Yeah.
If you look at the players, they're enjoying their football. They're enjoying playing their football. You look at everyone below them, they don't want to be there. They don't want to be out playing football. They'd rather be at home and down the shops or whatever. They just look totally disinterested. And that's why I think everyone looks tired. Because if you can't be bothered, you just shoulders are down, don't want to be there. Whereas the top 3 are, right, another game this week, let's do it.
Yeah.
And they're enjoying it. And that pumps you up, and your fitness levels and everything are like, right, come on, we've got to focus. We don't want to just win this game. We want to humiliate the team we're playing.
Yeah.
And I think that should be a thing that managers say every week. I don't want you to just scrape it. I don't want you to just win and then we'll sit back. I want you to absolutely trash this team because when we had that season when we reached the Champions League final, we was punching above our weight massively. But as a manager, I'd be like, we ain't just winning this game. I want to see these players fall apart on the pitch. I want to see them weeping when they're going back in their change room.
Yeah, but that's what you want.
Yeah, and this is what frustrates me about Mourinho. It's no, we'll get the goal, we'll sit back. Have you ever seen Tottenham sit back and win from a lead? I've never seen that, and I've been supporting them all my life.
Yeah.
So as soon as you get that goal and they go, all right, we'll sit back, especially if it's an early goal, you think, yeah, you're not winning this game. You get a draw at most.
I think that's it. I think us fans, we'll have a moan, and we're easy to moan, but we're easy to please as well. Because as long as the players are going out and putting the effort in, you'll take the defeat. Well, at least he plays well. They've done everything that they could do. Obviously, you don't like losing. You'll still have a wins when you lose. But what makes the wins a lot less of a wins is when they actually put the effort in.
Yeah, there's a bit of blood and teeth in that game earlier. Then I probably wouldn't have so much of a moan. But it was very much over by the time they'd reached kickoff.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Nick. I think that's exactly it. I think you got a great point. And I think that's sad. It really riles me. I've got to say, I'm trying desperately not to join on a complete rant about it. Yeah. Why? I think why bother turning up if you can't be bothered putting the shirt on and actually really sort of putting a shift in? I think it's
and it's very much a cliche that you'll probably hear from years past. But as managers, you'd like to go into the thing and go, if you're not willing to play, there's a whole squad of 18-year-olds would love to be where you are in a minute.
Yeah.
So you either put up and shut up and play a game of football, or I'll just out you because you don't want to be here. You don't want to be playing for us. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that. It's like teacher telling off school kids. You know what I mean? You're all grown adults playing and paid a lot of money to play a sport.
Yeah.
But we're getting a bit too deep now.
A lot of money, Nick. Yeah, that's why I'd never accept the excuse that the fans aren't there for them not performing, because that's just not an excuse for me.
No.
I'll accept tiredness because, the like I'm a big advocate of that. I think we've just been I think we've rushed the players back far too soon, just for the pure commercial reasons around international football in the summer that's going to be coming up. And if that's what it is, imagine how many injuries we're going to see in the summer, because the international managers will push them to as though they haven't played. You know.
Yeah.
Sarah saying, haven't you guys got a ticket?
Sarah's got a really good point. I was just about to say the same thing, Stephen.
I know. We're not actually not doing the table now, are we? We're just putting heroes and villains.
Yeah, I think, Sarah, the best thing is to explain it to everybody. And I think this is something that comes out, it comes out of the editorial part of the show, because actually, believe it or not, there is an editorial element to this as well. But we found it in the past shows. It's been really difficult to allot characters to every single team. And I think that it's been unfair to the teams that play on a Monday night. And it's also unfair to those teams, that the likes of the Crystal Palaces of the world, who have just sort of quietly got on with things and just sort of they eke out a result. And that, the mid-table, they're doing all right. They're not going to get relegated, but they're not doing anything special. So we decided that really from this week going forward, I think we had a little tip of it earlier on in the show. We were looking at sort of rides that remind you of certain games that we've watched over the weekend. Yeah. But also just looking at heroes and villains of the week. And obviously we're still going to have our award at the end of the show. But it makes it a little bit easier, and I think probably a little bit easier to follow for you guys watching at home. We hope. And if it's not, let us know in the chat. We're working on this week after week, and we're just looking at heroes and villains.
No, we're not doing that yet, John. We're getting on to Everton first. Come on.
To be honest, it's the best place to start, because they'll be the first villain of the week.
Everton.
Because if you don't turn up on a Monday night away at Chelsea, you turn up at home against Burnley, and they didn't bother for either of them.
They didn't.
It was exactly what Nick was talking about. It was that whole thing where your team you can tell in the tunnel they don't fancy it, and they can't be bothered. And for Everton, I'm finding it so annoying, because the drop in points. They dropped points recently against, they dropped points against Fulham, they've dropped points against West Brom, dropped points against Newcastle, and all this season, and it's happened the past couple of seasons, teams that have got relegated, Everton have lost to. And that shouldn't be the case. You should be going to those games, and I think there's an air of arrogance about the team. I think there's an air of, we're better than them, so we just go out and we'll just play a normal game. They've been absolutely shocking, and I think against Chelsea, it was a time to put a marker out. They didn't fancy it. And yesterday, Burnley actually did exactly what a team battling for points. And it doesn't matter what position you are in the league, whether you're right at the top or right towards the bottom. Burnley did a job against Everton because they wanted it. They wanted 3 points, and they were superb. And as an Everton fan, that really hurts, because my team never bothered themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's the other side. Hats off to Burnley. I think Burnley's 3 points yesterday has been valuable for them. But possibly Southampton getting beat off Brighton has just about kept Southampton thinking whether or not they're still in a relegation fight. They're still 7 points ahead of Fulham. And I think we've said for a few weeks now, I think we've all got a little soft spot for Fulham. And Fulham played Man City, and City just did what City do against them. But there's something at the bottom end of that table looks really tasty. We've got from Fulham upwards, it's Newcastle, Brighton, Burnley, and Southampton.
Yeah,
and not a lot of points difference. Yeah. But yeah, Everton have been absolutely rotten. So they're the top of my villains list for this week.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, John. Do you think it's just that Everton, the players, have just started to believe in their own hype and thinking that you can take the foot off the pedal?
No, I don't even think it's that. I don't even think it's that, because actually, we keep downplaying. We're not really looking at European football. The actual balance of the team isn't right, and the balance in the midfield isn't right. And we've been very, very well organised playing centre halves at left back and right back,
Mm.
which has done us absolutely wonders. And the lad that we've got from Norwich in the summer, Ben Godfrey, has been superb. It's when we look at the midfield and it looks as if they've got Andrea Gomez. For all he's a great player, and he is an exceptional talent. We've got him. We've got Tom Davis, and he's a young lad. Is Tom Davis? I really like him. I think he gives the ball away very cheaply at times. But when the two of them are in the same team together, we create absolutely nothing. The balance doesn't exist. But then we're playing the lad that we spent a lot of money from Arsenal for, who Arsenal fans are still probably laughing the socks off, that we spent, 40 million on Alex Iwobi. It's just like, I don't even know why he even puts a blue shirt on. I can't even go there. It's just like, he's just not, doesn't do it for me. He doesn't do enough for the team, doesn't do anything. And you can't carry players like that.
I didn't realise you paid so much for him, John. £40 million.
I might exaggerate that, but I'll have a little check. I'm sure it was between 30 and 40. It was far.
It was definitely a lot, because I remember watching it on transfer day and thinking, if he's worth that, I'm worth 50.
Yeah, well, most of it. I was thinking when I saw it, that if he's worth that, I wouldn't pay more than 10 million for him from Arsenal. And how on earth somebody signed that deal off?
You weren't even getting in the Arsenal team, so why would you even think about putting that sort of price tag on it?
Exactly. Here we go. 5-year deal. Initial 28 million rising to 34 million. So there you go.
Even that, John's way over the top for him. It's way over the top for a bang average player for me.
Yeah,
he's a bang average player. Arsenal, as you know, Mikel Arteta used to play for Everton. You don't think there's a bit of a backhander going on there? Is there, little brown envelope past each other?
It was before Arteta's time.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, and it was before sort of the background team at Everton changed. I'm not sure. I'll blame Allardyce, because I blame Allardyce for a lot of things.
For everything.
Yeah, I'm sure it was one of his sort of, one of the things. Oh, we'll buy him. It's either him or Ronald Koeman. It's just clueless. Why on earth would you buy him? Just doesn't make a scrap of sense. And then he had the gall to come out in midweek and turn around to Ancelotti, and he says, he's got picked for Nigeria's squad, and he comes out and he says, at least I'll be able to play in my favourite position. And I'm like, come on, sunshine, you're having a laugh. And I think on Friday, Ancelotti said, I've had a word with him. We'll play him in his favourite position. I think he lasted 25 minutes, and he was back on the wing. It's just like he's kidding himself. He really is. He's if anybody knows a football squad who are looking for an Alex Iwobi, just send me an email. This is just very easy to do. But I'll get in touch with the club, because I'm pretty sure you're probably picking him up for about 20 million. But the sooner he's out of my football club, the better.
I bet there's some local pub teams that would probably decline that offer.
Yeah,
I think they will.
They'd be like, no, it's all right. We've got Fat Jeff. If he lives, it's fine.
Fat Jeff will do a better job. Yeah, Fat Jeff can actually control the ball on the third time of his touching it. And Iwobi can't. It just pings off him every time, every flipping time.
He's awful. He's just an awful player.
Yeah,
an awful player. Right, so I'm with Charlie. I think we just give Liverpool Hercules and Mickey this week until we play. I'll tell you what, Charlie, it's the only chance we've got the way we're playing, unless we're going to start covering the Champions League, where we just seem to be a completely different team. So we've talked about 3 games really this week. The Tottenham Arsenal, Leicester Sheffield, and Everton Burnley's the 3 games we've gone to town on this week. So I put small whales for Tottenham Arsenal. You guys put a couple in as well, didn't you? Leicester Sheffield United. It depends on what perspective you're looking at it from, doesn't it?
Expedition Everest.
Expedition Everest, yeah.
One team is on the up, and the others on that backward sort of loop section.
Brilliant.
Going down straight afterwards. And I think that's probably the best.
I'm with that. You know what? That is an excellent show. Yeah. And then we've got Everton Burnley.
Yeah.
I mean, we've given Everton the villain. I've got Burnley as a hero there. You know, any team that beats Everton's a hero to me. Are you kidding, John? I thought, what was it? Was it 2-1? Was it? It was 2-1 yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's the away team's gone and beat them. I suppose, John, do it from an Everton's perspective. What would you give that game as a rise? Looking at it from an Everton's perspective, what would you do?
It'd be a carousel of lack of progress.
Yeah. Can we do that? Can we use that? Can we use that rule? Charlie's in the chat, so let him get involved. Can we do that with the rides? Can we alter the name slightly to fit the game?
Not learning from the past, making the same mistake again and again against teams at the lower part of the league.
Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, it's probably a good show because the carousel of progress has been progressing, but it hasn't progressed since the day it was made in 1960.
Yeah.
Well, did you ever see that video of one of the animatronics that just went absolutely crazy? Because that's pretty much Everton, wasn't it?
But then the animatronic was working harder than Everton's midfield yesterday.
Yeah. But I think have we done Man City yet? We've not done Man City yet.
No, we haven't touched on Man City. Just the fact that we think.
I think if we're going to move on to Man City, I would say Man City are like Dumbo ride. You're going through the motions. It's a small ride, but as soon as you walk in, you have to go on it because it's Dumbo. And it's just they are literally, they're not even out of first gear, really, are they?
Yeah.
Let's be fair.
There's that lovely saying just as you walk into the ride as well. It says, "Was it believe and saw?" And that's all they're doing. They just totally believe in each other, and as a result, they're soaring. Yeah, good call that, mate.
City are just in that motion now. They're in the groove. They're just going to win. You know, even when they're not playing well, they're going to win. I mean, he had the hiccup against United, didn't he? But they'll win that league, and they'll win at a canter now. And R. Allison's saying there's not many games until the 19th after Liverpool's tomorrow.
Yeah.
Charlie's loving the carousel of lack of progress. Yeah. So we're putting Tottenham as a villain this week. It's Tottenham getting the villain. Nick, you have that final shout, mate. Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, we won't give Arsenal a hero because it was an absolute drab of a game by all accounts.
Yeah, it's not worthy of it. I think as well, Stephen, I still want to have another villain for this week, and that's West Brom. For all the reasons mentioned in every other week previous, and they've been found out. And again, they're only 4 points above Sheffield United. And no matter what trick they tried to play, changing the manager, getting Big Sam in, it hasn't worked. And Allardyce is looking at his first relegation as a manager. So I just wonder if Big Sam will decide, do you know something? I'll go and see if there's another job out there before the end of the season, you know?
Yeah. Well, I'm with you there, John. I'm not a big fan of Allardyce. Really, I'm not. I think he's anti-football for me. He's anti-entertainment football. You know, I'm glad he's being found out. I'm glad he's not going to. I don't think, looking at that, like you say, only 4 points above Sheffield United, 10 points behind Newcastle United, and Newcastle have a game in hand on them. You know, they're not doing it. They're not doing it for me.
I think Allardyce is waiting for a nice cushy number in Dubai or something like that to see out the rest of his days. Gets paid a nice little wage, bit of sunshine.
He actually had that because even when he was England manager, didn't he? He made a mess of that.
Didn't he? just.
Yeah. You know, we
Yeah,
have
I think,
go on my holidays every week.
yeah, he'll end up managing Saudi Arabia or something stupid like that, and you'll never hear from him again.
That's it, yeah.
Fingers
Sounds put one a day for you, John.
Thanks, Tyler. Do you know something? I really got paid about The Little Mermaid as well. I think it's it's strange times in the Disney parks, and I think we're all finding that there's all kinds of different things that we know that are not going to return. If anyone that hasn't read Katie Wetzel, who is a character from the Nemo show, was on Instagram this morning and had the most beautiful post. And I've been in touch with her because I've been trying to get her onto the GB Mickey Waffle. And she's had the toughest year of her life. And you begin to understand once you see the post on Instagram. And she's such a lovely person. But she's suffering, and she's gone through an awful lot. And there's a lot of cast members who've done that. And to see your show and to see your ride closed, and it must be heartbreaking. So if anyone hasn't done that, go and check that out, because it's worth having a look at.
Well, I won't check that out.
A lot of time for Katie. She's.
I mean, is that completely? They're just getting rid of it, or are they revamping it?
No, the Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
I don't know what they've got planned. I think it'd probably be a complete rebuild. It's a massive.
Would it not be that they're waiting for this live action to be made, and then they'll just revamp it to that?
Very possibly.
I mean, it's going to take a while, but
yeah. And I think actually, given the constraints of the actual show, and given sort of the COVID parts of it, where you're not going to get people in, because it used to just, and it was always, when you went in, it was always wet. You sat in the seats were wet from the previous show, and it's just like, I can understand it's not quite going to, a part of me thinks that when the parks were shut, it probably all went sort of mouldy.
Yeah,
it's just that all of those months with the aircon off is probably not done very good, So,
Legionnaires disease in there. Everyone's got Legionnaires.
Who would know? Come on,
We've got one last thing to do. We haven't given our Mickey or Goofy awards out this week. I've got my Mickey and Goofy are in the same game this week. So I'll give you the clue. It's Leicester Sheffield United. No surprise if we get who's the Goofy, who's the Mickey on this one.
I think we'd be remiss to even look any wider than that. I've got to say, I was disappointed. I'd the telly on to watch the Man United game, and I switched off because the golf was on, and I was thinking Lee Westwood was going to do us a turn tonight, and he didn't. But Man United West Ham tonight was just like one of them really boring games when you're expecting two teams to really come out and play football, So you just looked at. I think you're spot on, Stephen. I think it's the only result the weekend that actually just jumps out at you. Okay. Leeds Chelsea was dull as anything. Palace West Brom was just what you think it was going to be. Then Everton turned up or didn't turn up. City then decided that they'd just play the reserves against Fulham and get a result. Yeah. Southampton Brighton was a bit tasty at times, but Leicester then turned up, and Leicester actually looked as if they wanted to win a game of football. And I think they're the only team that this weekend that they're very, very worthy winners.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that's it, isn't it, guys?
Yeah, it is. Can I just say, Nick, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always good to get that counselling session around about football because, but thank you for having me. It's been good.
It'll come right, and I think as well we look forward to that cup final that you guys are in. And you never know. Mourinho likes it when a bit of silverware. He suddenly decides he's going to play a team and a system that he doesn't play every other week. So you know,
He's like a
yeah, he is.
a little bit of shine, and he's like, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly it. But really appreciate you joining us. It's been an absolute blast, and it's again just another part of this Disney community where you're meeting people, you meet them online, and actually, you know, I think we've said this a few times, Stephen, haven't we? This to us is like it's like that Sunday evening at the pub talking about the football, and yeah, we owe you a pint, Nick. Tell you.
Yeah.
So I'll take that definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on, Nick. It's been a pleasure having you on. It's been great,
thank you.
as always. So that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Thanks for getting involved, and thanks for listening to us as we wind and moans. Well, no, not we. These two whined and moaned. Anyway, join us next week. Hopefully, Charlie will be back with us next week, and we'll be talking, hopefully, about a good Liverpool result, a good Everton result, and a good Tottenham result. Anyway, bye.